Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who have been on this journey with us for probably we're going on 5 years now. So thank you, Folgers. You're part of our Outer Realm family, and we're so appreciative to have you. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Sick the Sonic Surgeon, for his contribution of his voice and his music for the intro that you just heard. So check him out. He's on all of your favorite streaming platforms. He is a award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, our kind of stuff. Anyway, also big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre and does phenomenal commission pieces of any type. So tonight we welcome for the very first time Aage Nost. You've seen him on other shows here on the network. He is the co-host of the broadcast team Alpha Show, and very popular show. And they talk about pretty much a lot of the same stuff that we talk about. So you know you'd love it. Anyway, he's going to be touching on many things this evening. Probably, starting off with some of his experiences as a pilot. We'll try to get his thoughts on Project Bluebeam, and if time allows, he'd like to touch on time travel and time slips, and any way you look at it, man, he's got a lot to talk about, and we're just going to wait for him to come on, and hopefully he will be on camera with us. So Bubbles is back, which is nice. Hello.
Hi. It's great to be here. Sorry, I've been out of it.
Yeah.
Lot on my plate, and I thank you all for your thoughts and prayers. We need them continued because this is going to be a long haul. But anyways, it's good to be back. It's good to see everyone. Happy New Year. I didn't tell you about this, but I thought I'd tell this quick story before Aage comes on. During the holidays, because we haven't had a chance to really talk. We've worked, but we haven't really talked. My niece messages me and says that Salvatore, her youngest one, was seeing my father and having conversations with him. Now, my father passed away in 2020. And all of a sudden, she said, out of nowhere, Alexa played the song when we carried the casket out of the funeral home. Ooh. Salvatore wasn't there for that. And there was music playing as we carried him to the car. And I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, we need to ground, we need to do this, blah, blah, blah. And put, that I'm not blah, blah, blah. I'm not throwing it away. I just don't want to take up too much time with it.
Yeah.
So anyways, John tells me, Amelia, did you turn the radio on for the dog? I go, no. He goes, did you turn it on with your phone? He's in the kitchen because it's Bluetooth, that radio. It turned on by itself. And the song's playing. This is hours later.
Wow.
Then I come up into I'm just laughing because I knew he was around because I was talking to him. Then I come into the office and his guitar is in my corner and you just hear a strum. Very loud. I'm only feet from it. And I was just like, hey, Daddy. I know I'm here. I hear you. And it was so precious. And it was like he was letting us know I'm coming around.
Yeah. But you've all
Salvatore
needed him. You miss
Salvatore have a hard
him.
time because
Yeah.
he was young, so small. He's young, and he was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
little when my dad passed away,
Right.
and he's having a hard time with it. It's like the first death, right, in his life,
Right.
and that's significant. You never forget about that, even as you get older. And
Right.
I just thought, oh, this kid is they're all gifted in that family, those kids.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, this kid's really gifted. We've really got to, round him in, pull him
Right.
in, rein him in, pull him in and ground this kid because
I know.
it's just I'm scared of I just wanted to make sure, as anyone needs to make sure, that it wasn't a mimic. And I could do that for her.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Which was nice.
keep that in the back of your mind if you do have.
Yes, exactly.
The song, Diane, is Dancing in the Sky. We played that when we were moving him. So it's very significant.
Right.
That my mom, I hope you're dancing in heaven,
Right.
not dancing in the sky.
Right. Very nice.
I can't even listen to the song anymore, but
I love it. It's a nice,
well, he took his last breath to the song when I laid in bed with him when he passed away. And
right.
Anyways, I don't want to get to it because I'll bawl my eyes out, but it's nice when you get those messages. And this was quite clear that he made his rounds around the family at Christmas, and
very nice.
Just thought I'd put that out there and share it with you guys because maybe there's something that you didn't click on and your loved one has. They do come around during these important times, and so don't give up and pay attention. I think a lot of times we just dismiss things as, oh, it must have been this. We always dismiss it logically. Right. So I thought I'd just share that.
No, that's fantastic.
There's a few other things that happens too, but it's a long story. But I just thought I'd share the best parts of it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you for listening. I love sharing these things because I want people to understand that it's not in your mind. It's not your imagination.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. They leave signs all the time. It's just we, the living, who don't pay attention.
That super thin veil at Christmas too.
Yeah.
Hi, Jeannie. Love you.
So our guest is here and we're going to bring him on, and he's not on camera tonight, guys. So you'll have to just listen tight.
I'll do my finger thing.
Hello, Aage. How are you?
Hello. Here I am, and here are you.
Hi, Aage. How are you?
We're doing good. So because you can see us and we can't see you, we'll have some sign language going on. So when you see Amelia's finger come up, that means she's going to talk, and I'll try to remember to do the same thing.
Okay, I really have to apologize to you because I'd rather stay off the camera because I got an eye infection and I look funny.
Oh,
I've been there. I understand.
Yeah, so
that's okay.
I'm getting better though, so I'm gonna live.
And that's this is a good thing.
They're just a nuisance when you get them. It's awful.
Yeah.
So, well, welcome to the Outer Realm. You've been on quite a few shows on the network. You haven't been on ours before, so this is new for us. And I know you've got a lot of things that you can talk about. And I know that I had co-hosted with Jeffrey Pritchett on the Church of Mavis, and was basically introduced to you that way. And we had a really great segment, and we had a lot of really good stuff bouncing around. So I know we're going to have a good time tonight. Where would you like to start? I mean, you've got a really great portfolio, and you've had a lot of experiences as a pilot, and the list goes on. So where would you like to start tonight?
Oh gosh, I don't know. You guys are the driver. I'll ride back seat with you. Wherever you want to go, I will follow, because chances are I could talk on it.
But that's okay, because that is what the Outer Realm is all about. It's a very laid back roundtable type of show where the guest does get to do most of the talking to take advantage of the listenership. So why don't we do this then? Why don't we start with I like to call humble beginnings, because essentially one doesn't just wake up one day and say, I'm interested in UFOs, unless or the paranormal, or unless there's something somewhere in the background. So where did it start with you? With childhood memories or experiences, or what attracted you to all of this?
Oh, to the paranormal, there's so much more than UFOs. There's
Absolutely.
yeah, Mela talk about that. So it's she's far outside of the box too, and I think, I've been around. I'm older than some of the hills around here, so I've had some experiences from early childhood when I was back on the farm in Norway,
Okay.
and
Wow.
I think probably the first real interest in the paranormal, or actually back then UFOs, was when I probably was about 11 or 12 or so. And we're talking with a neighbor kid, and he was really interested in UFOs, and he kind of spurred me to it. And I started thinking about this. All these things are flying through the air. They don't have wings. There's no motors on it. And I knew enough about airplanes that wasn't airplanes. So I figured, how do they do that? They have to oppose the gravity somehow. So there had to be an electromagnetic component to it. So I figured if they're going through the air, floating on gravity, it should create ripples in the Earth magnetic field.
Right.
So I built this little UFO detector that actually worked. And it's very, very simple. I just built it around a compass, and I had it hooked up to a bell and a battery and a breaker switch. So two wires came down on both sides of the compass needle. If the compass needle moved, then it touched the wire and set off the circuit, and the bell go off. So then I grabbed the binoculars and ran outside and looked, and one time I know I didn't see anything, but twice I did see something going through the sky that was all lit up, and yeah, that was
That was it
UFO.
for you?
Yeah,
Right.
that,
And what about your paranormal experiences? Because a lot of people don't realize that the paranormal and UFOs and metaphysical and quantum, everything is connected,
yeah,
right?
yes, it is.
So, did you have
And
any cool paranormal experiences as a child?
uh, it, yeah,
I mean,
actually,
Norway is extremely crazy out there.
yeah, it is. And this is something. This memory came up when you asked for paranormal. I haven't even talked about this on shows, I think, but I was just a little kid, and there were two gentlemen that came to the farm, and they just showed up, and I was across the you have all the buildings in kind of a square around everything, and they came, and I was sitting probably about 50 to 100 meters. That's about 150 feet away from the house we lived in, and I was sitting there talking with them, and I don't remember all of what they said. I've never really gone back and dug that out. I should really do that, because one of them, he said that it is essential
Hmm.
that you leave the country.
Wow.
And I that was not in my thoughts at all. I was just a little kid, I don't know, 7 or 8 maybe, something like that.
Right.
And they told me about things that I should consider doing. And my mom saw these two guys sitting there with me talking. So she came walking across just to join us. And one of them, he raised his hand and he said, "Everything is okay." So she turned around and walked back in.
Hmm.
And now I'm starting to think one of them, and back in those days, nobody in Norway had long hair, but one of them did. I have long hair.
Right.
So I know this is a wild idea, but I've been messing around with time travel, and it could have. I know that sounds ridiculous, and
No.
No, actually, it doesn't.
So you're among friends, so you speak for
yeah,
yeah.
but I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm good with that because I've done so many ridiculous things that it just falls in line.
Right. It's very, very possible, as far as time travel goes. I mean, you hear stories all the time, even time slips where, people will be, I mean, we've got stories of children running around the house playing, and all of a sudden they come back and everything is different.
Yeah,
And yet they can hear the people that they were just playing with, but they're not there. And hours go by and they do like a counter running back the other way. And all of a sudden things are exactly the way they were. And they're like, where were you? We've been looking for you. And like, I
yeah.
could hear you. I've been here the whole time.
Good Lord.
Right.
That is one of those things that I think a lot more people have these experiences, but they do everything they can to try to explain it away because it doesn't fit in the paradigm.
Right. Well, it's hard to wrap your head around everyday things that you see just on average, let alone trying to go beyond the full spectrum of what is your own reality or what you deem to be your own reality. I mean, let's face it. I mean, people are comfortable talking about just the paranormal right now, where they weren't, let's say, necessarily 50 years ago. You had more specialized people who
Yeah.
were, even back into the Victorian times, people were really into it, but it's not something you talked about back, in the 40s, 50s, 60s. Heck, even growing up in the 80s,
No.
I remember, the family saying, "Don't talk about that. It's a family secret." You're like, "What?"
Put you in a straitjacket if you said something.
I know.
Yeah.
So now throw in UFOs and people are like, "What?" Like,
Yeah,
I've had people say, "I believe in ghosts, but I cannot believe in aliens." Why not?
yeah,
What do you
yeah. Maybe there could be the same. They
Yes.
may appear as ghosts to you in dreams or in visions, but
Mhm.
maybe there's an extraterrestrial presence that allows themselves and have the mind technology to appear that way so that it will be more palatable for you.
Right. I believe anything is possible. I mean, it could be, as Joe would say, dimensional bleed through.
Yep,
You know, there,
absolutely. Yeah. And the time slippage that you mentioned, that is something that happens, in fact, a lot because
yes.
people don't really, yeah, they try to explain it away. I had one like that. I was coming home one day and I had my hands full of grocery bags, put them on the island in the kitchen, and I start putting things away. And I put the keys right on the island. I know that. I put it right there. And keys to the car. And I put all the groceries away. And then I turned around to grab the keys, and they weren't there anymore.
Wow.
So I wondered where they were, and I couldn't find them. Before later, I found them in the freezer on top of the fridge. And I had bought no groceries that went in the freezer, so I had not been in there.
Right. So you're either having a complete brain drain or
Yeah, and
something else took place.
something else happened, and I did my absolute best at that time to explain it away, but it just didn't work.
Right. Right. Um, hmm. So what are your thoughts on time travel itself? There's a lot of people that believe that we just can't do it. We just don't
Oh,
have the technology. I mean, I believe in sacred places. I believe in power spots and portals and vortices and all that stuff. I mean, that's no brainer right there. But do you think we have the technology to do it, or how are we doing it exactly?
well, it's really very simple. All you have to do is to start listening to scientists, and they will tell you that we have the technology to do it.
Right.
because they are saying now that, in fact, this is for the listeners. For those of you that is sitting on the fence right now,
Mm.
I'm going to shake the pole and see if I can make you come down from that fence. Because all you have to do to start listening to scientists,
Right.
just in the major media, even it's coming out. One of them is a high profile internet newspaper. Go and look at the article. It is bbc.com, and go to July 11, 2018.
Okay.
There's an article about time travel. And
Hmm.
they say, we know how to build a time travel machine, but we just can't do it yet.
Right.
Huh.
Hmm.
And then there are other people that have built these machines, and they are missing today.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
Are they missing because they use them? Or are they missing because somebody's stopping them from using them?
Well, there is
Mm.
one incident that I like to tell you about, and that is that
Please.
I have an electronic device that is hooked up to a very strong electromagnet, and also a time coil that you put around your head. And I've had some very strange experiences with it. And there was one guy that also got a similar device from the same guy that built it for me. And he was going to college, living at home. So he got the machine or the device, and he took it up to his bedroom. And his mom came up later this evening to invite him down for dinner. And she walked into the room, and he was not there. The black box was sitting in the middle of the bed. The time coil was right there, and the magnet was there, but the kid was missing.
How old
Really?
was
Okay, she
he?
said, yeah. So she said, yeah, he just left to be with his friends, and he didn't come home that night. They started to worry, and then she found out that he hadn't been to school either. So now they filed a missing persons report. Police came out, and she told them the story, and I can imagine their eyes rolled back in the head,
Right.
and they didn't believe her at all. Then they asked her, "What did you do with him? Did you kill him?"
Ooh.
That
And
would be the first thing that you would do as a criminal investigator.
the first
Yeah.
thing
That would be the first thing coming out of law enforcement. Absolutely.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely. That's what they're trained to do. So,
Yeah.
Mm.
and then they started investigating, and they read the manual that comes with it and found, yeah, okay, so this claims to be a time travel device. And they eventually had to let the case go because the kid was missing. He didn't show up anywhere. And several years later, he had still not shown up anywhere.
Hmm.
This story I got from Stephen Gibbs that built the machine, and I
How
totally believe him.
how old was he when he went missing?
He was he didn't say, but he was going to college.
Okay, so he was an adult.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And there are other people also that is missing having used that machine, and I can understand somewhat. Let's say that he put it on, and normally you have to practice a little bit to make this thing work. But if he got it to work right there and then, and he went back to a time before electricity, and also left the machine or the device behind, he wouldn't have a way to get back.
He anything could have happened. He might not want to, if he's
Yeah, that's
actually used this time machine and has time travel. Because I don't know how I feel about that yet. But
With
because I'm
time
still
travel?
learning. Yeah, I'm still learning about it.
mhm.
I don't know. I have a hard time because one part of my brain says this is logical. You can write this in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be time travel. He could have just left. Anything could have happened to him. He could have met up with friends and something happened to him. He could have been abducted.
Mm-hmm.
Alien wise, it doesn't mean he went through a time travel machine. There's too many ifs. I believe, and I trust in you and your story. I just, as a person hearing it for the first time, have a million questions with this. If this time travel machine, and they have it documented and law enforcement has seen it and people know about it, you would think the government would be all over this, trying to hide it.
They were.
Yeah.
They have been all over Stephen Gibbs for making these devices. And he made the same device that Art Bell had. And also in 2003, BBC Television came over to the United States to do a TV documentary on time travel. They had Michio Kaku on it and Green. These are theoretical physicists. They are specializing in things like time travel. And also they had me on it. And I demonstrated this time travel device on that video that was later shown to about 1 billion people in the English world. And this time travel machine, some of the experiences that I have from that, it resulted in, I don't know how to say this, I think I'm one of the few that actually have picture evidence of time travel. If you go to broadcastteamalpha.com, into the picture gallery.
Okay, 1 second, because I am there. Picture gallery.
Go to the picture gallery, and I think it is on page 15.
Oh, because I'm looking at videos. Gallery, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Page 15. So I don't know where I can. I'm just scrolling down here. So okay, hold on. I am going to try. It will take me a while to look at it. Just trying to share it up with people. But go ahead. You keep talking, and I'll keep looking.
I can try to explain how it happened. You will find 2 pictures on that page, and they are very similar, except for some very major details. But they were taken at the same time.
Okay, because I'm here now. So on this page.
I think it's 7 down, or I forget where. It's kind of in the middle. They look greenish picture. There's a road in the middle of it.
With a road?
One of these pictures, the road has been rained on very heavy, because you can see the lights are glistening off the road. And also there is no leaves on the trees. Now the other picture, the road is dry and there's leaves on the trees. But when I took this picture, first of all, I did it in a really strange way that I haven't heard anybody do. I was sitting at the computer and I was watching a video camera in Europe, in my hometown.
Right.
And I took a screenshot.
Here we are. Okay.
And later,
wow.
There you go. That's the one with rain on it.
Okay. And this is the one with, hold on, no rain. Hold on. Rain? No rain. Okay. So what was the time difference between you taking both of these photos?
I later on, after I took that first screenshot, later on I tried to go back to the same time, but I missed it by 1 minute and 5 seconds.
Right.
Very good likelihood that the road would not dry up, or in 1 minute and 5 seconds, and the leaves would also not come off the trees in 1 minute and 5 seconds. So you can, if you read the text there, that'll explain a lot more of it.
Right.
That's a little lengthy, so people have to do. Where you found it was at broadcastteamalpha.com, into the picture gallery, and page number 15. You can see it.
Yeah, got it right here. And the website is scrolling across the bottom here, so people can go in and
there you
see.
go.
No problem. No problem at all.
And then I caught some flack because of this, because a lot of people could say, oh yeah, sure, he changed the date on the pictures. Of course he did, because he's a computer expert. Well, there's a problem there. First of all, my computer knowledge ranks right up there with the village idiot.
Right.
And I have tried to get people to go in and check on the pixels in the picture and find errors in it. And I talked to very credible people, and they say, sure, I can do that. What is the pictures about? As soon as I tell them it is two pictures proving time travel, they want nothing to do with it.
Well, it's a bit out there. You
Yeah.
know, I think people are hard pressed to think outside the box. You know, there's pros and cons to everything, and there's truth and half truths, and people are
Yep.
very leery because we live in an age of media and television, and unfortunately we're led into so many different directions. It's hard to know what is accurate, what isn't, and what is it safe to believe. People don't do the research on an average when they're watching something. You know, I'm a natural researcher. I have to research everything, cross-reference it many times because I want to learn. But there are people out there who just watch something and say, okay, I'll take that, or I won't take that.
Yeah, I'm like you. I have to dig deep after it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm not giving an honest opinion on something. If I have, like, just an observation isn't enough for me. Just a story isn't enough for me. I need to know more. Because the first thing that comes to me is when you're talking about UFOs and you're talking about military interference and real abduction. I wonder if time travel has the same kind of thing. Is there an interference going on?
Yeah.
You know, this is how they're not all of their scientists. I mean, don't get me wrong, NASA, but like not all of your scientists get it right. And there's people who are really brilliant people who are working on projects like this, who have true belief and are putting everything into it and seriously studying it, high IQs, putting these things together. And then the government comes in and goes whoop, and takes it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm wondering, how this all got out. Now, I'm not saying just about this story. I mean, all the stories that I see. I see the typical, it's really sad because you see a lot of the typical photographs where there's a cell phone in the photo in the 1920s. It's like, that could be doctored. And like Michelle said, I agree with her. The Hollywood itself, it's hard to believe anything when you see what they can do. I mean, you saw on the film The Irishman, they made De Niro and Scorsese, they made them young again in the film, and then back to their present age. You think about it, you look at it and go, holy, you know, how do I know what is real anymore? It puts you in a spin of wondering, what is reality? You go down that rabbit hole. It's like, seriously, like for me anyways.
Yeah. Then, Amela, I want to ask you, what is your definition of reality?
I don't know, Aage, I'm being honest. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, because being a medium, I'm in and out of everything. And sometimes I even have to pinch myself. And there's so many times that I relive moments. And I say to Michelle, like, I'll call her and say, what the hell? This just happened to me again. And it's scary, because sometimes I wonder, did I go back and come back? I do have those questions, but not in the sense of time travel as much as dimensional walkthrough. I look at it differently. I don't look at it as a machine that you're using, but rather your mind. If that makes any sense.
That is actually it. It is a mind-matter interface device. And without the mind, I don't think it will do anything, because that's how it worked for me. I started practicing on it and I couldn't get anything done until I started lowering my brainwave pattern right down to about 7 cycles at the bottom of the alpha range. That's where I started to get some results. When I was sitting there normally, just closing my eyes, waiting for things to happen, nothing happened. But on the top of that is that there is an awful lot of evidence for that things happen. Let me take about 60 seconds and explain one particular incident that is totally verified that it did happen.
Okay.
And that is Andrew Carl Scene.
Okay.
In 2003, he was arrested for insiders trading. He was in New York. He started with $800. And he did 126 high-risk trades. None of them lost a dime of money. And he accumulated from the $800, he got $350 million in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Jesus.
Yeah. And then the regulators started looking at that and they said, wait a minute, this guy's got
That's
some
manifestation.
Yeah.
And they came and arrested him for insiders trading, took him in, hauled him into court, and the judge asked him, how'd you do this? And he said, well, he said, it got out of hand. I got caught up in the moment. He said, it got so exciting. And the judge asked him again, how did you do this? And he says, well, I am a time traveler. He came from 2056. And I read the records. It says, I knew which companies was going to have explosive growth. And I went and bought the stocks of them.
Right.
126 without losing. That's never, ever happened before for anybody.
That we know of. That we know of.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
He, of course, the judge, he just laughed at him and he said, well, we're going to keep you here until you tell us who you got the information from. So they put him in jail. They put a $1 million bond on him. And then 2 days later, a guy showed up with $1 million worth of cash. Cash. And
He's a flight risk.
Paid the bond. And from there on, neither one of them have ever showed up.
No, of course, that's a big flight risk if you think about it. No pun intended, but
absolutely. Now, a lot of people have said that, oh, this was just made up. And you were talking, Michelle, that you had to research the heck out of everything. And I did that on this one. And I found that, oh, yeah, there is a police record of this guy.
Wow.
I wonder how many of the elites have used it.
I think they have their own way of doing it because time travel has been done since 1956.
Because how else do you keep that kind of family wealth? I mean, I know one of the families, and I won't say it because I don't want to get anything to happen to us on YouTube and false whatever information, but I read that one of the families puts money back in when they pass away. They don't actually leave anything to the children and it gets divided so that their family always stays on top. I don't have to give the name because anybody who knows the top families knows who it is.
Yeah, it's somewhat common to do that because they want to protect their agenda.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, look at the Philadelphia experiment. What are your thoughts on that?
I have to watch that.
Yeah, it's a good one. I 20 years ago, probably 22 years ago now, I did 9 interviews with Al Bielek in Tucson. And the last interviews, he really got far out there. But it is very obvious that thing did happen.
Well, Tesla was a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he backed out though. He didn't want any part of it. But
no, exactly. He just gave him their calculations and such, and provided necessary generators, and that was the extent of what he was willing to do, I think.
Yeah.
But that was pretty wild. There's photos of that.
Yeah. And there were people that were on the ship. They were after they shut off the generators that was in the front and the back and the middle, the magnetic generators. They were engulfed. Before that, they were engulfed in a green fog and they disappeared. But when they came back, some people were embedded in the steel.
That's right.
They sunk into the steel like it was.
They've got photos of it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I'll see if I can find it while you're talking.
I have to look at that. Everybody talks about it every time they come on, and I'm like, I really need to watch this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so intriguing.
I'll see if I can find them.
And then there was some people that too, when they got off the ship, when they got to shore, got off the ship, and there is a story. There was a bar right there. Two guys walked into the bar, and there was kind of dark in there, and they were glowing, and they scared the daylights out of everybody in the bar, so they ran outside and took off.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I've got pictures because I do think I might.
Mm-hmm.
One second. A minute. The Philadelphia experiment. I'm just trying to see if I've got them. Okay, here we go. I've got some right here. Bear with me.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for people to see.
Well, Joe and I did a show on the Gray Zone about this, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And I save everything, of course, through research. So here we go. So here are the pictures. I mean, here you can see the ship.
Oh,
like
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
know,
distorted.
it's crazy. But here's the pictures right here.
Yeah.
See how they're sort of embedded right into the ship here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't get them any bigger. So, but yeah, so that's pretty crazy when you think about it. I mean, look at this. So they're like embedded right into it.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, so you think that's just an experiment. Can you imagine if they got it right?
That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It is for sure.
Yeah. That was the early days when they could not control it.
Yeah.
And they developed that later on, and they can control it now.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of stories about time travel. I mean, it takes me back to the story of a man going back that showed up in, I think it was Times Square, dressed in Victorian like clothes, and
Yeah.
you know, and that was in 1950, like when they found him. And when they found him with all of this, like his ID from the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
He lived in Philadelphia, but here he is in 1950 with everything. And when they investigated that, they found that there was a bank account and that the guy had died 5 years prior. The wife was still alive as an elderly lady. And she basically said, no, man, the guy just disappeared one day and that was it. And yet he shows up.
See, that's pretty cool. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
75 years later, he shows up in New York City dead.
I would, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to do some kind of research on perhaps looking at all of these people that went missing. Hi, Howie. Look at all these people that went missing and take make a list and take numbers of how many of them are involved in sciences.
Mm-hmm.
I think, see, that's where I like to look at it as an investigator rather than a researcher. You know what I mean? Like in a different point of, because what is the motive? Why is everybody going missing other than curiosity? Okay, but how many of these people are scientists? Are they really missing? Are they being held up in some facility somewhere doing work for someone else, not necessarily government? And the theories come in like 100 at a time, right?
Yeah, but I am thinking more so that if you are a scientist, you don't dare to go outside of the box very far because you very easily can lose your job. You lose your credibility if you start.
Yes, but in your own basement, you don't. Physical theorists do it all the time. See?
They could.
Behind the curtain, Aggie, behind the curtain. That's what I mean, like behind the curtain.
Wizard.
Not what's in front of you,
but
what's behind the curtain, what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these people who are you know, into physical theory and stuff like that, they and string theory and all that stuff lose themselves in this. You know, the Stephen Hawkings of the world, let's say. There has to be. It couldn't just be him. You know.
Yeah. I still think, though, that a scientist probably is so indoctrinated that most of them will not go down the basement and start putting things like this together. Because
No, not most, but the few, like him, because he did talk about aliens and saying not to communicate. So he is one of those. Tesla was another one who spoke of voices.
Well, Tesla was believed to have made contact with
so it's
aliens.
not just you're just hearing about it. They're all scientists.
That could very well be, but if they're scientists and then make it work and let's say they disappear, then
Elon Musk, here's a modern time.
Yeah, they say.
Yeah, we'll leave that one right there, won't we, Aage?
Yeah.
I say don't put them on the back burner, because what you see is not what you're getting. And I think there's a lot of facade to that. And I think he's a lot smarter than people think he is. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I know his story. I think I don't think he's a time traveler. I know where he come from.
Not time traveler. I'm just saying he's an incredible scientist.
Let's back up a little bit about time traveling. What about Donald Trump? Because there's so much going on around, like his grandfather, or was it great-grandfather being a time traveler?
Well, Elon Musk is very good at surrounding himself with brilliant people, and he controls them. That is one of the major success principles in big business.
Right.
And Donald Trump, there's a book.
That's right.
Yeah, which actually talk about, written almost 100 years ago, they talk about that his son was barren, right?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Well, his name is Baron.
Yes. I know. That's
the one with Melania, or the other one? Are you talking about, Michelle? The current one is Baron. Yeah. Baron
that's
Trump.
right.
It was named after his grandfather.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. But I don't know. So right there, he just seems to know a lot of things. You know, John Titor. Am I saying that correctly?
I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Who's John?
When it comes to all these things that is hidden from us, we have to remember what Ben Rich said. You know, the head of the Lockheed Skunks Works.
Yes.
And I'll quote him on that one. And he said, he said, we know how to take E.T. home, and it will not take a lifetime to do it. We already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it will take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you know and can imagine, we know how to do. I can imagine a lot of things.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. I'm right there with you.
And he didn't say that last week. He said it in 1978.
See.
So where do you think they are now?
Do you think, Aage, that with everything that the powers that be have suppressed from the rest of us, do you think we should be living in more of a Star Wars or Star Trek sort of a life or future? Do you think we would be that far advanced if everything had gone status quo and nothing would be hidden?
Well, let me do a comment here first.
Of course.
And then I'll get to that.
Okay.
I bet everybody saw the movies about the Matrix, right?
Oh, please. There's another show we could do right there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you saw the Matrix, we all thought that is wonderful science fiction. And that was not science fiction. That was a documentary.
It was.
That feels like life when you're in this field.
There's a lot of ancient information in there.
Yeah.
If you pay attention.
It's an incredible series.
I would, when I said it's a documentary, I don't mean necessarily in every detail.
Right.
But I think I can prove to you that the world we are living is a mind-created creation. There's nothing real out there, because there is this physicist. His name is James Gates.
Right.
He has he looks to be in his 60s somewhere, and he has studied the universe all his life. And he says that when we look deep in the equations explaining fundamental particles of the fabric of space, we find computer language.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we didn't put it there, it just shows up. It is too organized to be there by accident. It was put there by an intelligence. So, if there is a computer language somewhere, it's got to be a computer, right?
One would think.
Got to have one in order to have computer language.
Yes.
I can accept that. Not a computer like you're sitting there right now looking at, but it's a different computer. And what I'm more interested in, who is sitting at the computer?
Source. Who is source? Who is the
Yeah.
creator, right?
In our individual reality, I guess if I was on camera right now, I would point to that person and I will point right to you. You are doing your own creation. You are using the technology of the universal mind or source, which you are an integral part of.
Mm-hmm.
And through you, the source is able to give you the intelligence to create everything around you on the basis of neuroscience and quantum mechanics, and also the science that you get from the source as you are part of.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe that's, I'll back up a little bit and talk about extraterrestrials for a moment. But you know how people say, because I've said it, because I do get them, downloads.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think downloads come from other races or, that are out there? Or do you think maybe it lends to your theory of a source, computer, whatever the case may be?
I'm going to stay with this because I had one of those when the universe was downloaded to me in concept and detail, and that came from source. Otherwise, they wouldn't be this big.
Right.
And what I saw in there was a lot of inventions, people, and pretty much everything. And what I was interested in, when I thought about it later, then it popped out. And then when I quit thinking about it, it collapsed itself into that soup again. And whenever I go back now, I can go back, put myself in a state of mind. I can bring some of that back out because it is burned into my memory. I have all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And in there, that's where, in my book about spiritual science, higher conscious thinking, and how to access the universal consciousness, I explain how we all can do this. There is a way to get downloads, and it's not that uncommon. You got them, Michelle, and many others.
Quite often for a while, actually.
Yeah.
You know,
you had them a lot, and you were losing sleep, waking up tired.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
But it's just it's a good trade-off. Like I love waking up. It just knowing things. You know, I would write down whatever I could remember, but sometimes I wouldn't remember. Sometimes I would just start researching or working, and I started like getting pulled in directions, and all of this information would come up, and I'd be just like, well, I didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's interesting how it all works.
Yeah. Sometimes the universe sneaks things in on you. But the thing about it is that you always are the one that allows for it to happen.
Of course. I believe that.
Yeah, because we create in our own reality, and some of it we create from the present, and some of it we create because we made the agreement of going through or doing these things before we were even born.
Right.
We come with big backsacks and baggage.
Right. So tell me then, while we're talking about everything all knowing, what are your thoughts on I I like to say dimensional, interdimensional beings. I don't really feel that all life that's out there shows up in a craft. I do believe that it is dimensional. I do believe many have been here all along or started here and return here as far as extraterrestrials. What is your experience with that?
When it comes to the extraterrestrial presence, the first question that show up, first of all, maybe why, and then is where do they come from?
Hmm?
I think they come from everywhere and every when.
Mm.
Every when is a new term that has not been used a lot, but that means that they could come from the past, they
Mm-hmm.
could come from the future.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the evidence of this happening because, first of all, the science says that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to quit thinking in old time technology and science. We
Right.
got to expand our mind into the future. If we can imagine it, it
Mm-hmm.
can be done.
Right. Right.
So if you have extraterrestrials coming in ships, physical ships, they are way ahead of us, but they are also lower in technology and consciousness than the ones that don't need the ships. The ones that show up, like I had one time happen, and they show up in front of you and they stand there looking like a light bulb all lit up.
Mm.
They don't need ships.
No. No.
They're all consciousness.
Yes. Yes.
The reptiles or the greys or even the Pleiadians, they need ships.
Mm. Right.
But they travel faster than the speed of light. It takes them about 40 minutes to come from the Pleiades to here, according to Billy Meyer. So that is a lot faster than the speed of light. And it's really very simple. All they have to do is to set up a plasmic bubble around the craft, accelerate the vibration of everything inside of that bubble. Now you're outside of the physical reality where time does not work as we know it. Now you can move forward, you can move backwards, outside of time, and you move by consciousness.
Mm.
You can move from the Pleiades to here in a lot shorter time than it takes otherwise.
Mm.
Accelerate the ship out of the physical, and you can move forwards and backwards.
Right. Just quickly, I thought this was an interesting comment here, Amelia.
Sure. Thank you, Michelle. Yep. Marshall Martin, thank you so much for joining us and for participating in this episode. Marshall asks, if the brain can determine what to put on a microchip that's implanted, I question if it's necessary and capable to surf the net without any device.
I found that.
Absolutely. Because the head of the telephone division of a Japanese company, Motorola,
Right.
he said in a speech, by 2030, nobody will be carrying a telephone. It will all be in your head.
I hope not.
Not this one.
Won't be in mine. I'll be off the internet at that point. No, I wouldn't give that kind of permission. I think it's highly intrusive. And then talk about being controlled.
Well, the thing about it, what people have done over the last 3 years by putting stuff inside of them, you already have that technology in you.
That's fine, but they're still putting technology in your own technology that you're using every day. Respectfully, they are following and tracing everything anyways, even when your camera is off. If we learned nothing from Snowden, we deserve to suffer this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because your computer, even if it's off, you think it's off, but it's still on. People really need to dig deep if they, and really look at how many times have you been online and you're thinking about something, or you've had a conversation and all of a sudden these ads are up there, but you have not used a search engine for any of this.
Yeah, it happens on the phone a lot.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. But what the guy from Motorola said, that all you have to do, he said, is to think about a person, and then you formulate the thought in your mind that call so and so, and he will get the message and he will answer, and you can have a conversation mind to mind. He said that will be the telephone of the future. Now, we already have that capability.
We do.
Just that we've been told we don't, so we don't. And we have never practiced it, so we don't get good at it.
Because we've been conditioned, everything has worked or been programmed against us. Society goes against all that. Otherwise, you'd have all these extremely powerful people. It would be very difficult for the powers that be to keep control over all of these gifts. And I always say it, we're a species of people with amnesia. We forget who we are, where we came from, and what we can do.
Yeah. That's a shame.
Absolutely. But it's never too late. I think it's definitely a message that a lot of different beings from different parts of the universe or universes or dimensions, it's a primary message. Do you think, they're just trying to kick us into gear and say, remember what you can do, remember who you are? Or do you think you have these races that are just trying to suppress us even further?
I think we are being suppressed from everywhere. There are extraterrestrial entities that want to control the narrative of Earth, and their government, their religion. There are all kinds of different factions of different things that have their agenda that want to control their people with. So we don't, this is a hard road to hoe, because we need to stay ahead of these things. But once we know it is happening, it doesn't have the same effect on us.
Right.
It's like we're the lab rats of the universe.
Yeah, I feel like one sometimes.
Yeah. I don't like it.
Do you either of you ever feel like you're always being watched, like for both of you?
Yeah.
All the time.
Right? Isn't it a horrible
I had a guy
feeling?
outside the house today. I'll tell you about that later. But yeah,
no, I mean, even in your own house, you just feel like there's eyes on you everywhere. It's such an awful feeling.
Well, here's something for you. Think about this. Maybe you are being watched. Have you seen shadow people in the house?
Well, I see shadow people. I'm a medium. I see everything.
Yeah. Then you know you're being watched, because
that way, yes.
I see them around the house here. We got other people living here in this house that normally people cannot see.
Yeah.
But they live here too.
So do you think they're paranormal, or do you think they're an extraterrestrial race?
No,
or time travelers? Some people believe shadow people
are
are
a different dimension.
I don't think they're extraterrestrials. They kind of look like you and me.
Right.
Joe's favorite word, dimensional bleed through.
Yeah, but I see them out of the corner of the eye, about 90 degrees to the side. And then I look over there and they're gone. Because the periphery of the retina in the back of the eye are able to pick up higher vibratory light than the center is. So that in the periphery, you're able to see those things out there. But when you turn your head, now you're looking at them from the center of the retina, and they're gone.
Well, I know when I researched shadow people, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a really big hypothesis where they really believed that they were potentially time travelers.
That could be true. There could be many different sources for it.
Mm,
By the way,
definitely different.
did you know that in Chinese law, time travel is made illegal?
Now, why
Why
would
would,
they have to do that if we didn't have the
yeah,
capability? I wonder.
why would they do that if they knew it wouldn't work?
Yes. Yes. Well, I think there's a lot of things that will start to surface
Hmm.
when you have, when you have the amount of suppression that we have had, especially since the Roswell days. I think it got a lot worse. I mean, we didn't start out this way. Ancient cultures were all very open. We had a guest on the show last night talking about, you know, Atlantis going back like way, 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 like couple 100,000 years, and we really got into the meat and potatoes of things. And I thought to myself, my gosh, technology has always been here, capabilities has always been here. And somewhere along the line, everything that was accepted back then, even dealing with different extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings, everything came to a stop. Even Da Vinci, who disappeared for 2 weeks, came back more brilliant than normal. you know,
Mhm.
but all of a sudden, fast forward into modern times, and everything became an issue after Roswell, and all of a sudden, we are suppressed hardcore.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great point. But
Mhm.
on one note, Da Vinci and Michelangelo were known to use mushrooms. I'm just saying.
Yes, but when you use mushrooms, it's like that DMT thing. You see all kinds of amazing
yes,
things,
yes,
right?
and it was
Saying.
present in his work after that as well.
Yes,
You could see it in his work.
right. It's
Yeah,
like
it changed.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There was angles. There
ayahuasca,
was theories in there.
DMT. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll do it. That's just tapping into what you should be able to naturally do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even time travel is full of paradoxes. There are
Yes,
there are things that if you do it, don't mess with the past because
right.
it changes everything in the future. And if you are in the future, you may not be able to get back to the timeline you started in. You
Yes.
know, one of these paradoxes is well known. It's the grandfather paradox that you go back
Yeah.
and kill your grandfather.
Mhm.
Well, kill him before he had fun with grandma, so one of your parents were born.
Mhm.
And if you did that, one of your parents would not be born,
That's right.
and you would not be born. So you could not go back and kill your grandfather. You got a Mobius loop with no end to it.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Right.
can't
So,
do that kind of stuff.
with other words, the timeline that you are in right now, you would disappear. Now, the question is, would the timeline continue? Would you outside of it? Then everything around you has to change. So there is an awful lot of change if you mess with the past.
Mhm. Mhm. There's a lot of different paradox when it comes to things like that. I mean, there's a lot of things to factor in. It's definitely not as cut and dry as
Yeah.
people would have one think. But when you talk about devices, I've talked about this story before, and I really do have to locate the recording because this was years ago. But using a certain device, um, testing it out when I first had it built, and we came across what we thought was a time slip of two pilots. And I believe half of what I hear and half of what I see because things aren't always what they seem. And we had two pilots, three pilots actually, that seemed to be in an old warplane. And they could see us and we can only hear them, obviously. And it almost sounded like they were in this bad B movie. And I'm thinking, oh, we had to have tapped into something really ridiculous, like a really bad film or something. But it turned out where they were communicating with one another, describing us sitting at the table. They were intrigued with the fact that we had electricity. And I asked them, and I said, "What do you see?" And they said, nothing, ma'am. It's all black. We're lost. And I went, who am I speaking to? What's your rank and position? And it went major, and I don't remember what he had said, and it kind of blurped out. It gave us a coordinate, but gave us like 2 out of 3, if that makes sense, because they gave 2 coordinates and then blipped something out. And it basically, when we looked it up, we put them over the Pacific. And then it got really heartbreaking because they said, look, there's a door, it's open. And I just had visions of like a B-52 or something coming, tearing through, taking the tower off the house or something. And I'm like, do not go through the door. And then they started pleading. They're like, please, please, we're lost. Help us, please. And then transmission cut. I was just like, what did we just experience? So a year later, exactly the same time, the same date, we tried again and could never get it back. Tried for a couple of years, could never get it back. It's like the planets were lined up a certain way or something.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's
just
just
energy, frequency.
Yeah,
has to be identical.
I think so. Yeah, wasn't for a lack of trying.
Makes sense.
So we picked up on something out there, and I wouldn't have thought much about it except for the fact that there was an interaction and they were describing what they were seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You're very lucky to have experienced that. That's pretty cool.
But you know what? Fortunate, like they're definitely very humbled, but could never find like exact information on it because we just didn't have all the coordinates. And in wartime, how many planes went missing? Seriously. And how many, like, did they end up through a portal or something? Did they, and they're just wandering around? Because it's very intelligent communication. Or are we dealing with something like, again, like a bleed through? Are we dealing with, I can't even say it's a replay in time because there was communication happening.
Yeah, this goes right into another technology that has been talked about and has been around for a while, and that is the looking glass, on the chronovisor.
Oh, the chronovisor. Yes, I know. Guardians, yes.
And those things, they were, I've done a couple of shows on that on Broadcast Team Alpha, and those things did happen. And the looking glass now is showing, they were able to show different timelines, and they're seeing that they're starting to merge.
Really?
The timelines are starting to merge together as they go into the future, and they're going to end up in one timeline, looks like, in the future.
Well, a lot of people believe, actually, Mike says it right here.
Oh, the timeline has changed. Yeah. Well, we can't see the word, but we know why the timeline has changed.
So the chronovisor is, I mean, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, it's not really very old, is it? 80s? I think when they first came up.
They started working on it in the 1950s.
Okay.
Because the chronovisor was done by the Catholic Church. Or should I say, financed by them.
Yeah.
And then they reached out to scientists, and they found, quite a few of them, high-ranking scientists that put their heads together, and they put the schematics together first, and they found that this could really work, and they hooked it up to a TV screen. A bigger than normal TV screen, and then they ran it through, so they were able to watch things in the past, and mostly in the past. I know they have seen things in the future, but there was a problem with there because the future has not been created and locked in stone yet. Right. So it is somewhat affected by the one who is operating the device. If you are thinking about something in the future that you like to see, that could very well show up on the screen.
That's interesting that it could be manipulated that easily.
Yeah, the one that run the machine will have an influence on the future because the future is sitting there. If you thought of it, it's in the quantum arena waiting for you to pull it back into the physical. So
that makes sense. Makes perfect sense. So what do you think Well, before I ask you the next question, Amelia, can you get this one, and we'll just tackle it.
Yes. Hi, Wayne. Wayne says there's been a definite shift in the way things feel today over 40 years ago. Could this be a result of someone going back in time and interfering and thus throwing us all into an unnatural timeline?
Good question.
Very.
Yeah, there is probably several reasons for that, and that is especially lately we have moved into a region of space. In fact, later here, I've been saying that for 10 years now, but later actually, NASA has confirmed that we have moved into a region of space where there is more radiation, and then they talk about what kind of radiation. But we have moved into a region of space where there's a spike coming out from the center of the galaxy that we are in right now. That spike only shows up about one time around the Great Circle, which is 26,000 some 600 years.
Wow.
So we are in that, and that is why the raising of consciousness is happening, and the veil is thinning, and we start seeing extraterrestrials, and they're everywhere in the sky. They walk in the street and they look like us. You don't know it.
Right.
If you had aura goggles, you would see them, because some of their auras are different colors, like
bright. They're coming, Aage. They're coming.
Where can I get a set of those?
Don't think I'm not on top of this technology.
Oh my.
So yes, that's a whole other show in itself. So the question I was going to ask you about timelines is, do you think that we have this cauldron and we've got CERN and things like that? Do you think when they crank that on that it shifted us at all? Because man has a way of just screwing things up,
we're good at that.
We are. We're really good at that.
Now you may remember this, and it was about, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was one of the head scientist at CERN. He was speaking on the floor of the European Union at the House, and he said, he started his speech when he was talking to all the senators. He said, I have to apologize for you. He said, we destroyed our world, so we are in different timelines now. And then he went on with his speech, and people in the audience, they kind of laughed it off, and that was a good joke.
It was a joke? Wow.
But nobody caught it. I am not so totally sure that he was not telling the truth.
Yes.
He could have, because we are living here, or at least we think we do, but it is all energy, right?
Yes.
Energy does not go away. It is only transformed into something different. So if they destroyed that world, we could very well slip right into a parallel timeline where they didn't do it.
You're not wrong on that at all. I think that we end up creating things that we have no control over. And I think that's part of what's happening with AI. We've been warned about this for a long time, and it's happening. And no matter what, I mean, what are we going to? We're going full circle to Matrix again. Like then what? Then what? We don't listen. History repeats itself.
Yeah, and this looking glass it's been around a long time. They started back in the 1940s in the theory part of it. It took 10 years before they were able to actually start putting it together. And Nikola Tesla, he on his last, I think he died in 1943, but he was in the very beginning. He gave them some equations that they were going to work with. And then he backed out because he found out what they were going to use it for. And but then again, Einstein, he went on working with it because I guess he was lesser principled, probably. Werner von Braun was involved with it, and Andretti Fermi was another scientist that worked on it, and created this time distortion device that actually worked for them. And they were able to see things in the past. In fact, they even claimed that was on the chronovisor that they claimed they were able to see the crucifixion of Yahshua bet Halachme.
Yes. I'm going to just halt 1 moment. We have to do a sponsor and station ID, please, Amelia.
Yes.
Take it away.
And right before I take that, I just want to put out there, I highly doubt Tesla would be impressed having his name on these electric cars, to be honest with you, now, with the way they're not starting in these cold places. So I don't know about all these other things coming to reality about flying cars when we can't even plug one in yet. So just putting it out there for a little giggle, because sometimes things get too heavy. Right, guys? Like nightmares, me.
All right.
For me. Okay. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 105.3 and 107.7 FM radio, as well as the Roku channel, live and archived. Our guest tonight is Aage Nost, and we're talking all about time travel, ET, races, time slips, Matrix. My gosh. What a night. It's been really, really, really fun. I'm really enjoying this. If you're just tuning in, no worries. You can stream our archives on the platform that you normally use. Just remember to click like and subscribe when you get there. First, search United Public Radio, then The Outer Realm. And don't forget to share us with your friends and family. To the wonderful folks at Folgers Coffee, thank you so much for your continued support. You've been sponsoring our show since day one, and we deeply, deeply appreciate you. We love you so much. Thank you for letting us be here. And thank you for joining us. Joe tells us that you tune in, so a big hello to you as well. For our fabulous banner and promo media, a big thank you to Steve McGinnis, who is a horror illustrator. He also does different commission pieces. If you're interested, he can be found on social media and Facebook, which is social media, Amelia. Yep, I know, I'm back. Loving our intro, and sometimes we get that outro in if we don't go too long. That's a big thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, award-winning composer, vocalist, and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, stream him on any platform that you normally use, and you can also check him out on Facebook and Instagram, where he's dropping clips. And don't forget, you can also search his music when you're creating those amazing stories. Now, if you're watching us right now on Facebook Live or on YouTube, make sure to give us a like, subscribe, and hit that little bell. Don't forget to share us with your friends and families. Thank you.
And we are back. Wow. So, yeah, very interesting conversation. What are your thoughts, Aage? Nikola Tesla, of course, had developed, what the communication device. A lot of people don't realize, but if you go into the FBI website and go into the vaults, you will find an article there that clearly states that Nikola Tesla was brought to the Tesla family as a child, as a baby, from two Venusians, from Venus. And Venus was known at one time to be like a technology civilization. So this is in the FBI vaults. If you can go check it out. Because, come on, the technology that this guy had was unbelievable. And apparently there would be people, these dimensional people that would come in and stop in and check up on him once in a while. So I don't know, truth or not, it's an interesting thing to find in the FBI vault files, but he did go on to invent this device, which was sort of like a telephone to communicate with dimensional or other dimensional beings. And it was improved upon by Thomas Edison, of course, and went on to be, went to the wayside for a lot of years. But when Tesla used them, he did hear voices that came from somewhere, intelligent voices of sorts. And of course, when it got reinvented, and this time by Frank Sumption, AKA renamed Telephone to the Dead, Ghost Box, that sort of thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Me too. Let's go. Let's run with it, Augie.
I'm thinking we've all used it.
Yeah.
Oh, what I'm going to say next is going to be right up your alley, Amelia.
Mhm.
Everybody out there listening, go to YouTube and put in the search bar the Tesla Spirit Radio.
Yes.
When you do, you're going to find a whole bunch of people that has built that radio.
Yep.
And it works about every time.
Yeah.
You can talk and you can ask questions and answers come back.
Mhm.
Because Nikola Tesla, I think it was 1901, he patented this radio. I think it was about 14 different parts on it. And it's very simple to make, except for me. I don't know anything about electronics. So he had these 14 different parts, 2 antennas on it, and it had no electricity going into it. So it was self-serving.
Right.
And what he did, he had this sitting on his desk, and one statement he made in an interview about this device was that, I think I can almost quote it, and he said, "I was alone in my laboratory at night, and from this device I could hear 2 voices talking back and forth in a language I did not understand. And it terrified me." Now, we got to remember, Nikola Tesla was fluent in 7 languages.
Right.
But these was languages he did not understand.
Right.
Mhm.
And also, it terrified him. A scientist like that, he put together, he thought at first it was from another planet, and then he realized that probably wasn't. It was something around him. And that was in 1901. The first radio station in the United States was KEKA. That was a Pittsburgh station, I think. That was put up in 1920. So
Wow.
he heard this 20 years before the first radio station was operational.
Right.
But
Right.
there were a few radios, but from what I found is that there was less than 20 in the country at the time in 1901, and they were at universities where they were just doing experiments.
Right.
Now, that blows me away because he had that 122 years ago.
I know. It's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, that is one way where you can speak with dead folks or interdimensional folks anytime, and it works just about every time.
I've had some interesting experiences with them. I've had 2 very amazing pieces built. And I've used small ones that have been built and converted. I like to test out different things. And one of the pieces that I'm actually in possession of was one of Frank Sumption's original ghost boxes, Telephone to the Dead. Very, very primitive life. And before Frank died, we were having text conversation, and he goes, he sent me a bunch of his recordings to listen to, and he said, everybody thought I built this to talk to ghosts. He goes, I built it to talk to aliens. And I was like, really? I was like, wow.
Well done.
I know. I was just getting to know him because he was the best friend of a friend of mine. I was just getting to know him. His recordings were amazing. And he passed away. And I thought, oh, wow. Like had he kept going, I imagine he would have just evolved on these devices so much, But he had basically said that he was told to build it
Hmm.
from someone somewhere, and he
That's
built it.
amazing.
He did a good job.
He did.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure and honor of using it with Michelle, and I can tell you
Oh,
that
that
thing is
wasn't that
that
wasn't
thing
even
is
his. I
no, but
know.
that thing,
Yeah.
that box
Yeah.
was an incredible experience. That is so real. And when you're asking questions of a personal nature and the answers come back,
In the voice of, which is very
yeah, it's
interesting.
really it's really hard to dispute that. Like, I challenge anyone to try, because
Mm.
I was just super impressed by it, and I could see how people can lose themselves in it. I could see that.
I think one of the most interesting experiences for me was a woman who had stayed at the house one time and asked, she wanted to do a communication with her father who was deceased. There was no closure. And she goes, "Are you there with," she named a name, which was the dog, basically. And he goes, "Yes." And she goes, "Can you give him a big kiss for me?" And all he said was, "And why would I want to do that?" Kiss the dog. It's like, wow. But it just sort of shows you that there's
Because he's
still,
her baby.
yeah, but it's still, the personality, which just was, I never really liked the dog. I was like, oh, well, that it made sense. It just added a bit of credence to the fact that maybe we were still dealing with the same type of personality. But
Yeah.
but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that technology has a way of resurfacing. And as it resurfaces, of course, whose hands does it fall into? So when you talk about getting back to the chronovisor, there are people trying to recreate this thing right now.
I could imagine. Yeah. There's a
know.
lot of credibility with, especially with talking to disembodied ones too. They're doing something here in Arizona at the University of Arizona. Gary Schwartz there, he's doing a project. It's taken him quite a few years to develop this, but he is also talking to the other side, and he has patented. And
Wow.
this it's called the Soul Phone, SOUL phone. If you go to you can Google Soul Phone, or you go to the I think it is the Soul Phone Foundation.org. I seem to remember. And the phenomenal people on the advisory council, very credible people that is working with this. He have a computer that he hooked up to an antenna behind it. And they can add the typing questions in, and they get answers. Excuse me.
Certainly.
And the answers, now the questions go out, and the answers come back as yes or no. The yes one's a green light, the no is a red light. And he made, I think, a couple of 3-4 years ago, he made the statement that so far, he says, all the questions we asked the answers has never been wrong.
Really?
So I am wondering who he's talking to. Is it the quantum existence, universal consciousness, or is it some really smart guy on the other side?
See, I would have to wonder the same thing, because, there's a lot of controversy with these devices. They just tell you there's just no way. There's no way
Yeah.
that you're actually getting intelligent things, especially when it comes to apps. But I find that apps, unfortunately, your telephone now, your cell phone is a mini computer. My
Yeah.
cell phone has more like it's got a terabyte. It's got more than my computer,
Yeah.
and I think there's just a lot of different things that you can do. One of my devices can use police scanners. It can connect to anything, just to grab like frequencies, something to work with. So I think there's a lot more to it than that, and I just think we do have to be careful, however, because like I said, not everything is what it seems. There's a lot of gimmicks out there, and there's a lot of things. I think a lot of it depends on the people using them. I can tell you, I've communicated with extraterrestrials that they've just been very emotional. It's just such an enlightening communication. You just feel the intense positive energy that comes from it. And it was a very emotional experience. For those of us who participated in that, it was just really wild. But some of them aren't so great. There are, I think, disembodied beings out there that are pretty harsh. So I guess you have to ask yourself from a logical standpoint, are we dealing with ET? Are we dealing with, evil spirits? Are we dealing with those that would be deemed to be demonic entities? I imagine anything can come through. And a lot of people are falling into some bad situations.
Yeah, and I have a saying, and that is that just because you're dead, it doesn't make you smart. Whatever consciousness you had, your personality and your character you had here, that goes with you.
Right. I agree. I agree with you. You
why,
are in death what you were in life, right?
Yeah. And
then
in the
I'm gonna
lower,
be brilliant.
Sorry.
yeah, some of them are jerks too.
I said I'm going to be brilliant. On the other side.
Okay.
I'm being facetious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Aage.
But in the lower astral worlds, it's not where we want to be.
Right.
Because astral travelers that don't really know a lot about what's out there, they find themselves quite often there, and it's not as much light as here. It's a little darkish, and you can see other entities that come up, and they want to communicate with you. They're asking questions. They're confused. They're needy. And if you spend much time there, they may follow you home. So it's not the place to be. But you can think yourself out of there into higher vibrations, and then things can be wonderful. Depends on if you understand how to do that.
I think it's about awareness and evolution. I think it's bringing yourself up to, a frequency that's hard for them to attach to.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Life is about vibration and frequency and mathematics and, geometry for people who really want to get technical about it. But, I don't know. I think the potential is great. I think people have the curiosity to want to learn more. But the idea is, where do you go to find out information where it's safe? Because people are being fed a lot of crap right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I better not do that because it lead into politics.
Oh, we should put you on Joe's show. You want to talk politics?
You can be free there.
Oh my gosh!
Because I can be really into politics too. I'm annoying everybody right now.
It's tough. It's tough.
Well, it's hard because it's international right now.
Yeah, it's every corner of the world is being brainwashed the same way because this is a global agenda anyway.
It is, and that's the show that we can do on Rumble.
Not here.
Yeah, there's a show for Rumble that we can talk about.
Yeah.
Aage, do you ever remember years ago on Skype, there was a guy who did an experiment, and it was to be able to communicate with something otherworldly. So you know how you add people, right, on Skype? So you would add, he had 2 channels that were going, and they were really like a white noise. It was crazy. And you would tag into this, and it would call through, and then all of a sudden it would be something would come through, and I thought, oh, it's just got to be some bloke on the other side. It has to be
bloke.
A bloke. It has to be a bloke. Too much Wayne. Yeah, I was be a bloke on the other end who's thinking I'm a bloke on the other end. But I really didn't speak a whole lot. I was allowing this person or this being to come through, and it got really aggressive, and it didn't sound to me like a human being. And I'll tell you something. After that it didn't last very long. That experiment lasted for, I think, about 3 months, where people started, commenting about having really horrific experiences afterwards. And I started getting like nightmares after that. And luckily, I mean, using my own abilities and grounding and, and lightning, I was able to push a lot of that out. But I found the timing of it very interesting.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, there is a few experiments like that, including all the way back up to when it comes to time travel. There's a German scientist that was named was Helmut Schmidt.
Hmm.
He was able to change the past by doing scientific experiments, and it worked.
Wow. And how did
So,
he manage that? That's
well, he hooked. Let's just. I'll take about a minute and a half to explain the experiments he did
that's okay.
because
Yeah.
it is
Whatever you
so
want. Yeah.
groundbreaking.
Okay.
He took somebody and he hooked them up to biometric sensors that he put on his head,
Okay.
and they ran that through a random numbers computer, so that the computer was giving out equal clicks on each ear. So click on the right side, click on the left side, click on the right side, but it was totally random. It could be one more on the left or one more on the right, or two more on the left and two less on the right. So it was random. And then he recorded it. And then when the recordings were done, he gave that to he did many of these, and they came out 50-50, 49, 51, occasionally 48, 52, but they were average all over.
Hmm.
And then he gave those recordings to, nobody saw it, but nobody listened to it, but he gave it to an intern, and he said, sit there, look at it, and imagine the clicks on your left side being much lower than the right side. And the intern sat there for several minutes looking at it and imagining it being much less on the left side than the right side. And then they ran the recording. And guess
Hmm.
what? The left side was down in the 30s. That cannot happen by a random distribution of clicks.
Wow.
But
Wow.
he did many of these experiments, and he was able through, by the mind of the intern, was changing the clicks on that recording.
Hmm.
And at the end of the speech he said, that was my beginning. He said, we have advanced much more since then.
Wow. 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 That is impressive
Yeah.
to me because I just find that there's some things that you just don't ever hear about. I mean, that would have been
Yeah.
kept under wraps right up until probably what, 30 years ago, like after the war, long after the war, before they would start being able to release information like that. And how much more? I mean, they did all kinds of amazing things. They worked with human
Yeah.
DNA just to see, like, not just the 10% that the West works with, but they went even further and said, no, there's got to be better stuff in all of this alleged junk DNA. And they found amazing connections to being clairsentient and clairvoyant. And like they really went and found interesting things and answered questions to
Yeah.
these other abilities that we have as human beings.
Yeah. Now, what he did actually can be explained through quantum mechanics, because we have to remember what kind of universe and world we live in. It
Mm-hmm.
is all a mind created universe. And the
Mm-hmm.
double slit experiments prove that. Several
Right.
other experiments prove that.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that. And if it's mind created, that intern was sitting there looking at it, imagining it being as he thought, and he altered the recordings because he was concentrating uninterruptedly on it.
Mm.
So that's why in my book about spiritual science, higher conscious thinking, and how to access the universal consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
I teach people how to work the mind like that, how to use the mind in ways that you normally would think would be impossible.
Right.
In fact, reverse the aging process, and I'm doing that. It
Right.
seems to work for me. And and other things, how to travel outside of the body, take your consciousness out of the body and go places, see things and do things. Go to the moon if you like and have a look at that pyramid that's sitting about a couple of 100 miles from the North Pole. Just go look at that.
Right.
There is now, you don't build pyramids in spacesuits, so there's got to be air on the moon too, right?
Right. Right.
So we've been lied about everything, but these are some of the things that you will learn by reading that book about spiritual science. And I have no shame. I gotta say it. You can find it on Amazon. Just put my name in there, and you will find everything that I do there.
Okay, perfect. Well, I've taken any of the links that you've sent me, and they are in the show description, and including the website. And of course, the website has been scrolling across the bottom throughout the entire show as well. So, why don't you fire off the website again for all of our audio listeners? Because we have primarily a much, much larger audio listenership, considering we're FM, than we do video. So,
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, you can go to Amazon.com and put my name in the search bar,
okay.
and I have two. I have one book out there, and there's also a video documentary that I
Okay.
explain what's going on today. It's called Aliens and Agenda 21.
Ooh.
That gets deep. It explains the technology they're using and everything else that they're doing to the world right now.
Well, I see
But
another show coming then, Augie.
Me
yeah,
too, and I look forward to it. I had so much fun tonight, Augie. Thank
Right.
you so much.
Yeah. Okay. So you get off
yeah, and
get off the
also
link and get off your website, and yeah.
yeah, go to Broadcast Team Alpha on YouTube and
Okay.
scroll down into there, and you'll find a lot of stuff that you just probably would like to see. And
Okay.
also on broadcastteamalpha.com, our website, Nori Love and I, we have that website where we got all kinds of goofy stuff on there. In fact, go into the picture gallery. There's
Right.
5,000 unbelievable pictures that should not exist, but they do in there.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, we had a really good time with you, and thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you start to feel a little bit better, and the next time you come on, you'll be on camera with us.
Yeah,
That would be nice. So,
yeah, I will. I have to apologize again because
oh,
I
that's
got this.
okay.
I was
Yeah.
outside of breaking branches and something
Mhm.
flew into my eye and I
Yeah.
got an infection from it. So now I look funny. I got a red eye. So I didn't want to
Oh,
No, of
disturb
course
I've
not.
people.
been there several times. That's Michelle. Don't worry about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
no worries. No worries. Well, thank you for, coming on anyway and sharing all of this information with us. And I will be in touch because we would love to have you come back on and talk a little bit more if you'd like to do that. I can get some dates thrown at you and you can let me know.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to. As the saying
Yay.
goes, I've never met a microphone I didn't like. So I'll be back.
I like that one. I'm stealing it.
There we go.
I am stealing that, sir.
Well, we are at the top of the hour, and this is where we part ways. And thank you again, Aage Nost. It was really awesome, and I will be in touch with you.
Please do. I'll be back whenever you call.
Oh, look
Okay,
forward to it. Thank you.
that sounds good. Thank you, and have a great weekend. Feel
Okay.
better.
And you too.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Okay, good night.
Well, that was a really interesting segment. Really, really had a great time. What a delightful human, as I like to say. So, thank you to Aage Nost for tuning in with us tonight. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring tonight's show, every night's show, actually. Big thank you to Justin Snicker and to Steve McGinnis for their participation in making our show exactly what it is. Big thank you there. So, guys, if you need to get a hold of us, the outer realm contact at gmail.com, the outer realm contact at gmail.com. Wednesday night next week, we have the return of Mark Dawidziak. And last time he was on, he talked about Edgar Allan Poe. Phenomenal segment. It really was. This time he comes back and he's going to be discussing Dracula and vampires. And it will include, of course, his book, The Bedside Bathtub and Armchair Companion to Dracula. I don't know why, but I really love that title. It's awesome.
Oh my God, it fits right in.
I love it. Thursday night, we welcome back our dear friend, Mark Ollie, all the way from the UK. Gosh, I just love listening to that man. Anyway, he is an archaeologist and an author. He is versed in many things, and his shows are always interesting. The topic of discussion will be something very near and dear to us, and that is the Knights Templar. Full on. He's touched on this before. He's made a whole lot of connections to the things that he was talking about, but this is going to be, full on Knights Templar. So we cannot wait. So everybody have a fantastic weekend, please. And if you're being snowed in places or bad weather, please be careful out there. We want to see you all here next week. Okay? Thank you. We love you. Mwah. Thank you for participating in the chat room. You guys make it so much more fun. So everyone, good night.